If you have ever attended a church service or a prayer session, you may have seen this.
Pray. Praise is my weapon. Praise is the proof. Praise is my weapon. Praise is the proof. And sometimes I start clapping my hands and a thunderclap is released. And the devil.
Or this one.
Has now become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ. And he shall reign forever. For the systems of oppression.
Or that.
If you call him Rapha, he will come as Rapha. You call him Jireh, he will come as Jireh.
Or this one.
And every evil plan against this.
Is that what defines prayer? Is that prayer? Hi my friend, and welcome to Logos for Life. If it is your first time, welcome, and if you have been around, welcome back. Today I am going to start a series of teaching on prayer, and in this first video I will be speaking on the meaning of prayer. I found it relevant as many Christians, many of us have decided to pray and even fast in this January. And the purpose of this discussion is to bring up the understanding of prayer to those that have forgotten what prayer is, and to those who don't know. So to some it will be a reminder. For those who have been Christian for a very long time, have been praying and have forgotten. And to some it will be new. If they are new Christian, they are still new believers growing in the things of the Lord. Yeah, why am I doing this? Because prayer is very important. It's an important aspect of our Christianity, or of a life of a Christian. As Samuel Chadwick say, the one concern of the devil is to keep Christians from praying. If he has nothing from prayerless studies, prayerless work, and prayerless religion, he laughs at our toil, mocks at our wisdom, but he trembles when we pray. All this to simply mean that prayer is a very important tool in the life of a Christian, a crucial one. Reason why it is written in the book of 1 Thessalonians 5:17, pray without cease. This is one of the things that the Lord is telling us to do without cease. What? To pray. And I will allow myself to add to that quotation that I have just read to you another detail to it, which is the word effective. Therefore, it will be read, the one concern of the devil is to keep Christians from praying effectively. Knowing, why am I adding that? Because knowing how the devil operates, you will agree with me that something that is very important like prayer, that the devil will look at and knows that it is important for a Christian, he will always come to fight it, to try to distort it, to try to bring controversy around it, so that, like in this case prayer, either the Christian will not pray at all, or will pray wrongly, or will pray in ignorance, so that this tool given by God cannot benefit the Christian or the believer. So to avoid that, that's why I am going to speak about prayer during this period. It will be a series. So this is the first video, of course. I will start with the meaning, the understanding, the definition, so that we understand what is prayer. And this will help us. Once the view is correct, the understanding is well, we will know what we are entering in, or what we are going to be doing to do it right. Before I dive in my today topic, I will just say, if you have ever attended a church service or a prayer session, you may have seen this.
Pray. Praise is my weapon. Praise is the proof. Praise is my weapon. Praise is the proof. And sometimes I start clapping my hands and a thunderclap is released. And the devil hears this. I'm not dead yet. You can't shut me up yet. And I begin to clap like this. And I say, you're going to have to hear me, neighbors. You're going to have to hear me in the other bedroom.
Or this one.
For the kingdoms of this world has now become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ. And he shall reign forever. For the systems of oppression of this world has now become the systems of oppression.
Oh, that.
You are mighty. God healer, he manifests as healer. If you call him Rapha, he will come as Rapha. You call him Jireh, he will come as Jireh. Are you blessing him? Don't be distracted, inside, outside.
Or this one.
And every evil plan against this nation, we dismantle now in Jesus' name. Every evil plan.
Is that what defines prayer? Is that prayer? Is that prayer? Because you know, when you come somewhere and you are told to pray, and the people who are leading you in prayer, and especially if you are a new believer, are praying in this manner, what will come to your mind? You will come to believe that this is what prayer is. If you find people jumping, you will think that anytime we say prayer, then I should jump. If you find people, shouting or beating themselves, you will understand, because it is a new concept, it is a new thing being introduced to you. With time, you will believe that beating yourself while speaking, that is what prayer is. And that is the reason why I am going to speak about this topic, to clarify or to bring out the understanding of what prayer means. Because sometimes we are just told, let's pray. We will be given many different type of prayer that exist, but maybe we'll forget to do what? To explain what prayer really is. So we will proceed in looking at what people have said about prayer as definitions. Then after that, I will give what I think is the definition of the prayer, or my view or my perspective regarding the definition of what is a prayer. So the first one here will be Lane and Thomas. It says, it is the gift of communing with our Creator. Prayer is the gift of communing with our Creator, child to father. And he continues saying, it is the anchor and cornerstone of our life's journey. But retain the definition, which is, it is the gift of communing with our Creator. Then we have Dr. Jack Graham. These are Christians who are defining what prayer is. Dr. Jack Graham says, prayer is communication with God. It is not only talking to God, but it is listening to God. So you can see there, it is communication to God, and it is not only speaking to God, but also listening to God. We have a definition from a Christian magazine called Christian God Question. It defines prayer as talking to God. It says prayer is not meditation or passive reflection. It is direct address to God. It is the communication of human soul with the Lord who created the soul. Prayer is the primary way for the believer in Jesus Christ to communicate his emotions and desire with God and to fellowship with God. Let's go on. We have another one. So many people have written about prayer, so many also has given definition. The next one is Billy Graham. Billy Graham says, prayer is spiritual communication between man and God, a two-way communication in which man should not only talk to God, but also listen to him. Prayer to God is like a child's conversation with his father. It is natural for a child to ask his father for things he needs. So you can see there is a pattern. There are words that are coming back. I want you to notice that. And the other one is Steve. This is a book written by Steve and Lois Rabbe. They are saying prayer is the gateway to God's heart. Have that in mind when we will be talking. And finally, for the few definitions that I have selected, there is the one written by Edwards M. Bound. He says, prayer, it is communion with God. It is access to God. You can see that there is words such communication, conversation, communion are repetitive. Like access to God, they are coming back. And you can see there is the mention of God or the mention of Father as the person to whom the prayer is being addressed, or the person who will be participating in the fellowship. So what is my definition after reading all this? My definition is prayer is communicating to God through audible voices, written messages, or silent voice of the heart. When I say silent voice, I'm speaking about the audible voice, meaning you are not speaking, the person is not speaking, but is speaking internally. Basically, it is speaking to God and listening from Him. That is what prayer is. But maybe you are wondering, what are you saying? What I see around me is different. I see people shouting, people laying down, people jumping. For them to express prayer or for them to think that that is prayer. But you are telling me that prayer is basically speaking to God and listening from Him. Of course, that is what it is. It is that simple. Prayer is speaking to God. It is listening from God. When you look to the previous definition that we have read, you have seen that some words have repeated themselves. And of course, this word will help us understand the how, because that might be your question, the how the prayer should be done. And those words are such as communicating, co-meaning, communion, conversation, access to. I'll give you a scenario because you're understanding that when it is speaking to someone, of course, we will agree it will be either a discussion, a conversation, a dialogue. Yes, when one person is addressing the other one. So let me give you a scenario, or let us consider this scenario of conversation or communion session. There will be two parties involved, at least two parties involved in a conversation. And in this case, especially in this case of prayer that we are talking about, there is the Son and there is a Father. Because you remember when Jesus was asked, teach us how to pray, he said, you will pray, say, our Father who is in heaven. And the Bible recognizes the believers that we are Christian as children of God. Some, depending on the gender, are sons, others are daughters. So prayer will involve at least two parties. The Son, if it is individual prayer, because during the prayer period, people are going to pray individually at home, at work, wherever they will be, and in some cases there will be the fellowship or the communal prayer where the church is coming together. But the understanding will still the same. At this time, it will be children praying to their father or having a discussion, a conversation with their father. So in this case, let us go back to what we are talking. There will be two parties involved in the scenario of a conversation, that is a son and a father, that is you and your Father in heaven. My question will be, have you ever had a conversation with your father, mother, or both parents? Or have you ever seen a child having a conversation with his parent or one of them? How did it look like? How did it feel like? Can you recall the memory? Is that what you have been doing in a prayer session? Is that what you have been feeling in a prayer session? Is it in that manner that you have been leading or handling your prayer session as a setup, an environment, an understanding of conversation? That was one question. Anyway, the next question will be, what happens in a conversation? Since we have already seen that there is two parties involved, at least two parties involved in a conversation, now I'm asking, what happens in a conversation? If we recall the memories, we will agree that one party will approach the other, will speak normally or gently to pass the message, and of course the other party will listen, afterward answer, and this will continue until both parties feel it is time to end up that discussion or conversation. That is how it will go in a simple way. Is that what you have been experiencing? I'm not done. I'm going to the second scenario. This is the scenario of effective communication, because among the words that stood up in the different definition that the men of God have given, the writers, the scholars, all that, there is communication. What does communication involve? Of course, it's still the same. Communication involves at least two parties, in which there is a sender, there is a receiver, and there is the message, which is the content. And of course, the sender will send the desired message. The receiver will have to receive it, to listen or read it, understand it, then respond to the previous sender. And the sender, after sending the message, he shouldn't shut down the door. He will wait for the feedback. That is what is considered as effective communication, where there is two-way communication. Remember the definition that I've given before? It is a two-way fellowship, a two-way dialogue, a two-way communication. So this will go on until both parties feel that it is time to end the discussion. So that is the simple way that I can put it. So we have two scenarios. I've spoken about the scenario of having a conversation scenario, and an effective communication scenario, where there is a sender, the message, the receiver, the answer, which is the feedback expected and waited by the sender. Knowing this and having this in mind, I will ask again, what do you think prayer is, according to the definition that we read from the beginning and the way you see prayer being done in the Bible? Of course, we'll come back again to the same definition that I've given, that prayer is communicating to God through audible voice, a written message, or even a silent voice, which is the voice of the heart, to God. Basically, it is speaking to God and listening from Him, having a conversation with Him, spending time in fellowship with Him. That is what prayer is. So it is a conversation. You need to understand it like that. Maybe you are having a different understanding. Maybe the world around you had fashioned a different perspective in your mind of what prayer is, a different view of what prayer is, where As long as you have not shouted, you have not prayed. As long as you have not cried, you have not prayed. As long as you have not knelt down, you have not prayed. As long as you have not done 2 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours in prayer or more, you have not prayed. As long as you have not cut yourself or beaten yourself, you have not prayed. But now I'm telling you that prayer is simply speaking to God, having a conversation with God. This might be difficult to swallow by those who are charismatic or Pentecostal, because most of Pentecostal charismatic have embraced a way of praying that they have seen around them. They have found it and they have embraced it, where you need to wrestle or you need to physically, tirelessly shouting for you to understand that you are doing what? You are praying. Now that I have given these 2 illustrations of the 2 scenarios, you understand that prayer is a private or personal conversation that you are having with God, a discussion, a dialogue, not a monologue. So this will involve you speaking and letting the other person listening. It will impose you, it will require you to speak your mind clearly, effectively, so that your message can be clear to whom you are talking to, and in this case God. And you will have to give God the time to talk to you, to speak to you. It should be a conversation, not just a monologue where you enter, you speak. Haven't you seen people who speak to themselves, maybe in the street? I have seen them. And if you have never seen them, maybe one of these days you see them. It's not a monologue where you just talk to yourself. It is a dialogue. You have someone to whom you are talking. So you have a content, you speak to him, he will be listening. That is how you need to see prayer. May it be personal prayer, where you are alone, at home or at work, wherever you are praying from, or in the communal prayer, where we are coming together, believers in some places or in a church to pray. It's still the same. It will be a conversation, a fellowship with God. Now that you know that prayer is a dialogue, then remember to approach God as a father, because you are a son or a daughter in his family. Of course, understand that prayer is a conversation, a discussion, a dialogue, not a quarrel to God, because sometimes it becomes like a quarrel, especially when it is repetitive. Remember that the person to whom you will be talking is right there with you. God is with you where you are. So there is no need of speaking to him as if he's very far. There's no need of that. He's right there with you. Jesus is right there with you. The Holy Spirit is right there with you. Remember that, and also remember that this person to whom you are talking loves you. He cares for you. He has good plans for you. He's not a wicked person. He's a holy, loving, righteous God, and he cares for you. That's why he even gave his son Jesus Christ for your sake and for my sake. All these said, please go and have a conversation with God your Father, not a quarrel during this period. And more important, remember how an effective conversation or discussion should be handled, and do it. Let it be a discussion, a conversation, a fellowship, not a quarrel, not a monologue. So mine is to tell you now that you may share this video if you are blessed by it. If you have learned something new from it, please share it with other Christians, because people right now are entering in a period of praying and even fasting, so that when they will be praying, they will be doing it with the right understanding that it is a communication. It's not just something with superstitions, no. but something that it's a tool that is given to us, a gift given to us to be able to communicate to our Father who is in heaven. There is a next video that will be talking about the manner of prayer, the how and the why of the prayer. Why should we be praying and more? So please stay tuned to this channel so that we can enjoy together the next video. God bless you and see you next time. Goodbye.